Charles Darwin!
Charles Darwin was born in Shrewsbury, Shropshire, England on the 12th of February in 1809. He began to develop a taste for natural history and collecting by the time he was 8. Around the same time, he started attending a small school ran by a minister, where it becomes apparent that religion would conflict him throughout his life.
You are a Unitarian.
This is an Anglican school.
But Mama Darwin died. His father eventually decided that he should leave school earlier than usual.
You're gonna be a physician.
And at 16, Darwin was sent to attend the University of Edinburgh to obtain medical qualifications. Darwin, who was now an adult, attended Edinburgh University in October to study medicine, though he complained that most lectures were stupid and boring.
This is dumb.
He found himself too sensitive to the sight of blood. This neglect of medical studies annoyed his father,
Darn it, Darwin.
who then shrewdly sent him to Christ's College in Cambridge as the first step to becoming an Anglican priest. At the time, Darwin preferred riding horses and shooting to his studies. His cousin, William Fox, at this time introduced Darwin to the popular craze of beetle collecting, which eventually contributed to his exceptional observational and theoretical speculation skills. After some time, he returned home to find a letter from botany professor John Henslow, whom Darwin was a good friend of, proposing Darwin as a suitable gentleman naturalist to study and chart the coastline of South America along a self-funded crew on the HMS Beagle. Although in disagreement with his father, Darwin accepted to the planned 2-year voyage. On December 27th of 1831, the voyage of the HMS Beagle set sail. Darwin, although very seasick, kept careful notes of his examinations. He had some expertise in geology, beetle collecting, and dissecting marine invertebrates, but was otherwise a novice and collected specimens for expert appraisal. He occasionally would send specimens to Cambridge together with copies of his journal for his family. Once arriving to the geologically new Galapagos Islands in 1835, Darwin looked for evidence attaching wildlife to an older center of creation, and found mockingbirds allied to those in Chile, differing only slightly from island to island. He came up with the descent of modification idea based on their beaks.
Favorable variations would tend to be preserved and unfavorable ones to be destroyed.
This idea was later recognized as the concept of natural selection. When organizing his notes as the ship sailed home, Darwin wrote that if his suspicions about the attachment between the similarities of species were true, that such facts would share some light on the origins of species. Eventually, Darwin's health suffered from the pressure. On the 20th of September, he had an uncomfortable palpitation of the heart, so his doctors urged him to knock off all the work and live in the country for a few weeks.
Darwin, you're sick. Stop working.
The strain took a toll, and by June, he was being laid up for days on end with stomach problems, headaches, and heart symptoms. For the rest of his life, he was repeatedly incapacitated with episodes of stomach pains, vomiting, severe boils, palpitations, trembling, and other symptoms, particularly during times of stress such as attending meetings or making social visits. The cause of Darwin's illness remained unknown, and attempts at treatment had little success. Fully recuperated, he returned to Shrewsbury in July, where he jotted down daily notes of animal breeding. Darwin now had the framework of his theory of natural selection by which to work as his prime hobby. His research included extensive experimental selective breeding of plants and animals, finding evidence that species were not fixed, and investigating many detailed ideas to refine and substantiate his theory. For 15 years, this work was in the background to his main occupation of writing on geology and publishing expert reports on the beetle collections. In May 1842, after more than 3 years of work, Darwin then wrote his first pencil sketch of his theory of natural selection. By July, Darwin had expanded his sketch into a 230-page essay. Darwin completed his third geological book in 1846. In 8 years of work on barnacles, Darwin's theory helped him to find homologies showing that slightly changed body parts served different functions to meet new conditions, and in some genera he found minute males parasitic on hermaphrodites, showing an intermediate stage in evolution of distinct sexes.
I hate barnacles.
In 1853, it earned him the Royal Society's Royal Medal, and it made his reputation as a biologist. He resumed work on his theory of species in 1854, and in November realized that divergence in the character of descendants could be explained by them becoming adapted to diversified places in the economy of nature. Not soon after writing some of his book, he received letters of competition that urged him to release his work sooner. On the Origin of Species proved unexpectedly popular when it went on sale to booksellers on the 22nd of November in 1859. In the book, Darwin set out one long argument of detailed observations, inferences, and considerations of anticipated objections. The Church of England's response was mixed. Darwin's old Cambridge tutors Sedgwick and Henslow dismissed the ideas, but liberal clergymen interpreted natural selection as an instrument of God's design. Even Darwin's close friends still expressed various reservations but gave strong support, as did many others, particularly young naturalists. In 1882, he was diagnosed with what was called angina pectoris, which then meant coronary thrombosis, a disease of the heart. At the time of his death, the physicians diagnosed anginal attacks and heart failure. He died at Donhouse on the 19th of April.